Hey everybody, we're going to be digging into the Slammery more today on a DM's Guide to Dragonlance. Well, greetings everybody and welcome back. I should say welcome back to myself, really. This is the Techno Funk Boy. I kind of started the channel a few weeks ago and was sitting down to restart the Dragonlance part of the channel. And the entire family got sick. And so this was like the worst time to come back to YouTubing, but I do appreciate you you coming back during my little break. It really helped me out a lot, and so I do appreciate. We need to get into some Dragonlance though. So if you're new here, this kind of started out as just a kind of guide to moving, doing a Dragonlance game in 5th edition, and it turned out more as just kind of DM, Dungeon Master thoughts and ideas on how to play each section. Since we last talked, I had done a review of the preview version of Tasselhoff's Pouches of Everything, which is the 5th edition campaign guide that Dragonlance Nexus put out. The full version is out now. That makes kind of a transition into 5th edition from me far less needed because they've done the work. But we are having a lot of fun going through the original modules, the different versions of it to kind of figure out what we like and what we can use in a new Dragonlance game. We are still in the original module is Dragons of Flame. This is the second module of the overall campaign. This is the module that kind of takes us from the wagon rescue into Qualinesti in to Pax Tharkas, and the Sla Mori is the secret way into the fortress. There are this original book is available on Drive-Thru RPG. So is the Collected Classics edition, which each one takes 4 of the original modules and publishes it together. That's kind of the cheapest way to get this adventure from Drive-Thru RPG. I have also found the 3.5 version of it, Dragons of Autumn. This, like Classics Volume 1, takes the first 4 modules and puts them together, but in a 3.5 atmosphere. So it does take a little bit of translation to play in 5th edition. But this is this is the secret way. Before we jump too far into that, I mentioned in the last video that I did not like the way the book handled the abduction of Laurana. It was pointed out to me in our Discord channel. One of the members of Discord is quite a bit farther ahead than I am in running these games, and it was pointed out that like in a later module in the 1st edition versions, they when Laurana gets back to the Qualinesti, they're really annoyed with her that she would wander off, going to chase after that half elf. Which does not happen in the modules, but does happen in the novels. And so I think there was some confusion in the original thing there, but I didn't like that anyways, and I changed it, and I did have Laurana act more like she did in the books and actually follow after us, and then get abducted along the way. And so if you are coming up on that point, I wanted to just throw that in there because that is kind of coming up in our future adventures. And if you want to have the Qualinesti kind of annoyed at Laurana, at least give him a reason to, and not being abducted by Draconians completely outside of her own choices. But the Sla Mori. So a couple of things. First of all, this is kind of the secret way in to Pax Tharkas. That's not the only important thing that happens here. There's a couple of other ones. The first one is you are going to run into Ebon Shatterstone for the first time. Now, this is a good place for me to say, if you are a player in this in this campaign, please turn this off. I'm about to jump straight into spoilers and all of that good jazz, and so you don't want to be here. But please do send your dungeon master my way. Evan, yeah, his first appearance is here, and we're going to deal more with his motivations coming up. You kind of find him in the middle of a skirmish, and he's very enthusiastic afterwards about joining your party, and so I really played him up as super charismatic and all that. In the book. In the book, he, of course, is an agent of Verminard. I played with that a little bit. We're going to get back into that when we get into Pax Tharkas more. I played with that a little bit because I did more stuff, kind of more political things in the background that are happening in Pax Tharkas, but we're going to get to that. The second one, of course, is finding the grave of Kithkanon, who was the legendary elf that started the Qualinesti nation, and he has Wormslayer, which is a very important sword to have along the way. We're going to get to there. First of all, let's jump over and take a look at the maps. So I actually put both the original map, and that is to the left of the screen, and then the 3.5 edition map, which is right above my head here. And besides, kind of upgrading the graphical quality, most of this is pretty much exactly the same, except if you, I don't know how clear it's coming through, but right in the middle of the 3.5 map, you see that little circle path that has the number 6 at the entrance. Then look at it on the original version. There's one change in it. That secret path that goes into the crypts in first edition, it was farther up the path. In 3.5, it was way down the path in the circle. Now, why is this important? That circle path is actually a trap that was put there just to kind of trap would-be grave robbers and kind of put them on this endless circle where they kind of get lost and don't know exactly where they are. So the wall, once you get to the very, very bottom of the path, the other edge of the path, and of course you do notice that, they did switch the perspective on these. Neither one of them has north as the going up, but they did kind of turn it on its edge in 3.5, but if you see where that X is, there's a little plate there, and once you step on it, the path at the crossroads closes, and it's a very, very natural looking close. And so the idea is that grave thieves would grave robbers would just go in this circle forever and die. That's the trap. 3.5 actually put something down there. The first edition doesn't. It just doesn't. It's just a trap. And so it really is kind of up to your preference which map you want to use and why. I like it. I like it as just kind of this weird circular path that doesn't go anywhere, and just like a nice parting gift from the from the makers of this cave for anybody who happens to come in. But there is a secret way into the crypt. So let's first of all deal with the crypts. This is a really in the map above me, it's number 7. This is a really kind of cool area where each this is where Kithkanon's personal guard was buried. 44 of them, and if they notice somebody's there, they'll come out and attack. 44 zombies, and so it is remarkably hard for an adventuring party to not try to open up these crypts and take a look inside, which awakens all of them at once, and so it's a nice little lesson in restraint, but it's also kind of a fun battle where you can very, very easily burn some spell slots doing some area of effect spells, because all of a sudden there's 44 zombies ahead of you, and they're not strong. I mean, you should have some levels on you by this point, but you're about to go into a big dungeon, and you don't necessarily want to cast Fireball at this point, at this early moment, and so it's a nice. I really like that encounter. I think it's very memorable, and I think it presents some problems for the party on exactly what they want to do in here, whether they want to go ahead and burn those spell slots or not. In the upper left corner of the 3.5 map, you see the number 4 there. That is actually the burial place of Kith Kanan, who's not, he's buried in that he's in a cave, but he's actually still sitting on his throne. We're going to get into Wormslayer in just a minute, but otherwise, he's there. If Gilthanas is in the party, I mentioned this. I mentioned this last video when we were in Qualanost. There's a lot of history to be learned in this book, a lot, and a lot of it can be saved for here. I'm a big proponent here because there's a lot of story to be told about what Pax Tharkas is, about what Kith Kanan was doing, about what the Qualinesti Nation was doing, what the purpose of all of this stuff is, and I want to weave that into the narrative as much as possible, because it's just it can be an info dump, and we don't really want that to happen. So a lot of the stuff about Kith Kanan can be actually moved into here. He is, of course, the mastermind behind Pax Tharkas. Completely. And so he's definitely worth mentioning, and he's also worth mentioning because of the sword there. Let's get into Wormslayer. So original version and 3.5 both have this as a +3 longsword. 5th edition is not as big on the pluses. It's like, 5th edition, that kind of most of your pluses come from your proficiency bonuses going up, and it's not as critical to get big hefty weapons that have +3s and stuff on them. And so I wouldn't have kept it. I didn't keep it as +3. I made it a +2, and if I were to do it over again, I would change it to +1. Unfortunately, this weapon is not in Tasselhoff's Pouches of Everything. And so we are going to have to translate this to 5th edition. So couple of things it does. Plus, first of all, it's a magical weapon that has the plus on it. Whatever the plus is, that's a big deal. But secondly, it has a plus for saving throws against breath weapons, against the dragon's breath weapons. That's huge, and we're about to start fighting some dragons. So this is important. And so that is I think it's +3 on those saves, and I think that's very, very worthwhile and worth keeping. It glows. It emits light. It also rattles quite loudly when it's within 30 feet of a true dragon, and by true dragon we mean a dragon, not a projection, not an illusion, not a draconian, a dragon. and that is loud enough that dragons can hear it from hundreds of feet away. And so that is a really interesting part about this sword. I've seen some online resources actually say the same thing about the sword that I've read this several places. I'm using this as well. That not necessarily a true dragon, but a true chromatic dragon. That is going to save some plot points later on down the road. This thing was designed to fight chromatic dragons, not metallic colored, not good dragons, in other words. And so I think it would just make sense. If you're in the Age of Dragons, right, and you're having meeting with like gold dragons, and you're having like a council of dragons, and you're in there representing the elves or whatever, you don't want your sword just rattling the entire time, right? Like it makes sense that they would have imbued this with the magic that would target specifically the dragons we're fighting against. That is going to be important later. It is, and so. If you want to kind of preserve those plot points later, my party didn't even know about this until Skullcap, when they met the bronze dragon there, and I made sure to point it out. It's like, hey, it's not rattling. Hint, party, take note. If I were to make this sword over, I would make it a +1, and I would make it so that it can cast an aura that will like do extra damage to people within the aura against dragons, like add a 1d6 or something like that, because I don't know, spirit of humor or something like that. I don't know what you would call it, but that's the kind of thing I would add, is the ability to cast like a buff spell using an action. I think that would be very, very worthwhile. The other thing, it's a long sword. This is like okay, so this happens all the time, like in first and second edition, like all the. I don't even want to say that. I see this in 5th edition too. Like in Curse of Strahd. You have the Sun Sword. It does have a little bit more versatility than simply a long sword, but I would keep this as a sword if possible. But do what makes sense to your party. Make it a sword that can be used as a finesse weapon, right? That gives it a little bit more versatility, so that more people can use it. My party, we had our fighter character had to leave the game soon before this, and so like they were dragging along Gilthanas as their NPC fighter, and I legit felt bad because everyone else in the party just used other things. Like they were mostly casters in the party that they weren't going to use it, and so they ended up giving it to Gilthanas and later Lorana to carry along with them. Which I didn't particularly like, but there wasn't a ton of choice in my game, because this is this weapon is a big deal. In the books, in the modules, this is something that they just pick up from Kithkanon's body. I like what happens in the novel, that Kithkanon actually has a hold on it, and when Tanis comes up to grab it, he lets it go. That it has some like intentionality to it. I think that's a cool dramatic scene in a room that should be kind of a reverent moment. That this is a room that has a lot of import in it, and I think that adds to that feeling. The rest of this dungeon can be played pretty close to the book. There aren't a ton of monsters in there. The monsters that there are here are interesting. There are a couple of traps in here. They can be played, kind of the way it is in the book. There's the secret door above my head, right next to the circle room, which is number 10. It's on that side. Okay, I'm doing backwards. It's on that side, number 11. That is like an old dwarven treasury when they loved gold, which is worthless now. I kind of dig this. In the first edition version, like, it's filled with gold, but the players aren't going to take it because it's not worth anything. In the 3.5, it's empty now. I kind of like the just gold sitting there, and there's a ghost in there, but I might put like. That is a secret door, and there is a monster in there, and so like I did put a magic item in there. I don't think my players went for it, and honestly I don't remember what it is, but I might put something in there worthwhile because they did find a secret door and fight a battle just to find worthless gold, which is kind of a downer, but sometimes it doesn't pay off. The big chain. This is like one of the reasons I like this dungeon is like there's a lot of memorable kind of visuals, that are fun to describe and fun to imagine. This is the chain. So like, okay, Pax Tharkas has this massive just long granite stone that's sitting over the gate, and this is a kind of like a oh crap, we've got to do something drastic type of a weapon that you can make this thing fall, and it will block the gate for months because it's just pure rock. It will just fall and block the gate, and this is the chain that is holding it down. So this thing is just freaking huge, all right, and it's just bolted into the ground here. Who knows how low it can go? A small or smaller character can get through the holes on the top of the ceiling by climbing up the chain. So we're talking about your kinders here, right? Or a gnome if you have a gnome, but kinders like in the novels, of course, it's Tasselhoff that does this. I thought for sure the kinder in my party would go. There's some cool stuff to learn upstairs that besides splitting the party, which definitely happens, it's a cool way to learn some cool stuff, and so I thought for sure she was going. She didn't, but that is an option there as a way for the smaller folk to get into Pax Tharkas from a different direction. That is a lot of fun. Other than that, yeah, that's what we got here. This is pretty short. This is a pretty short thing. If you can, the 15th, I mentioned this last time, but the 15th anniversary book really expands the road to the Sla Mori a lot. I didn't like that. I didn't think it served any narrative purpose. It was just there to add time. I don't necessarily like that. But this can be played, in a relatively short amount of time, but it packs a punch. There's a lot to do here. I personally think that, for the small number of rooms it has, it actually turns out to be more memorable than Pax Tharkas, because Pax Tharkas is like several levels and sections, and some of them you probably won't even go to and stuff. And I love Pax Tharkas as well, but just for sheer interesting stuff in a single page. This I really like. So your party should come out of this, hopefully, with Wormslayer. If they're not going in that direction, if you do have Gilthanas as an NPC with you, he might mention that he'd like to see it. You know, this is his like the direct ancestor. If Gilthanas is being played, or Lorana is being played by a player, then you might mention to them, it's like, hey, this is where your ancestor was buried, and with a history roll, it might occur to them, it's like, legend said he had a pretty good sword. If they're heading in a direction that's not going to take them there. Otherwise, if they miss it, they miss it. It happens. Oh well, you just die later. I'm joking. It's not a necessary piece of equipment, but it is nice, and it is going to be very, very helpful along the way. And so, yeah, that's the Sla Mori. All right. It is not going to take me nearly as long to get the next one done. I am back. I'm back in the saddle, the YouTube saddle here. I'm excited to be getting back into this, and in actually my game. We are way down south in Tarsus now, and there's a lot of stuff coming up. And like Thorbarden and Pax Tharkas first of all, but the mountains in Thorbarden, and that I thought was really good stuff. And so I'm pumped. I'm pumped about getting back into things. If you're interested in Dragonlance stuff, you need to be subscribed. Please do hit the subscribe button down below. It was kind of my goal to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen this year. But that is kind of my extended goal, and so it does help me out a lot. If you hit the bell icon, that's going to let you know about future updates. The Discord link is also in the description, and right now there are two of us that are like recapping our Dragonlance adventures in the chat, and that's been a lot of fun to see because he's ahead of me. He's well ahead of me now, and so it's been fun seeing how he's running it before I get to it, which helps a lot. And I'm putting mine in there too, and so you can see all the adventures that my party is having. Otherwise, I'm still working out the schedule of releases. Now that I'm back on here, where I'm also doing some like video game music reviews and all. And so, please do check those out as well. So I'm hoping to have the next one out within a couple of weeks here. And so, like I said, I'm raring to go at this point, and want to get these out regularly again. So thanks for joining me. We'll catch you next time.